All righty. Good morning, everyone. It's Ron. Uh, Pretty Sunday morning here in the upstate South Carolina. Hope it's pretty where you are. Uh, we left off yesterday. We were talking about something we had started Monday evening when we were looking at Matthew chapter 19. And we were talking about the SUN versus the SON and the way that Kemet used the SUN, the spiritual meaning to what that looks like and how that was manipulated into the scriptures. And so we're doing an account of that. So when we study the scriptures, we can get a better understanding of how things have been mangled in and placed in for manipulating people, and how we can pull truth from that and gain meaning and see the spirituality of it. Uh, but before we go into that, someone sent a question to me, and I thought it was a good question, and I wanted to kind of start off with that since I did not yesterday ask if there were any questions before we got started. So try to do that today. The question asked of the families of the Valdez shooting victims are suing Meta, the video game company, and they're suing the gun manufacturer. Uh, the question is, knowing the implications of accountability for the gaming company in this case, especially those that use women as slaves and avatars as sexual objects. So what do you see there spiritually, or anything that you see about these lawsuits, and what do you think will come from this? Anyone?
Ron, would you repeat the question, please?
It is about the families there was a shooting, the Valdez shooting victims are suing the gaming company for the video games, and they're suing the gun manufacturer. Do you think anything will come from this? What are your thoughts on this? The growing violence that we see. Is anybody responsible here? Or what would you like to see come from it?
Hey y'all, this is Nick. Yeah, I can respond to that. I think there's a general trend to try to uh, create entertainment that is so enticing so that it sort of divorces you from your own ability to interface with reality uh, as a way of getting you essentially hooked on a product, much like a drug or anything else that is sort of being advertised to us constantly. As far as the nature of things like virtual reality and violent video games and stuff like that, that is also a uh, sort of influential factor in uh, desensitizing you to actual reality. So there's probably a lot of factors that go into whether or not someone is influenced by things like that to actually do something. But the general trend that I see with the technology companies is to basically get you hooked on something that is artificial. And I think there's a lot more to that spiritually and metaphysically, but spiritually and metaphysically, what it does is make it more difficult for you to know how to interface with and draw from the reality that you experience as opposed to the virtual uh, environment that you essentially want to get some sort of emotional high off of. And so it desensitizes your actual senses, in the sense that you use them to interface with reality itself. It just makes it more difficult for you to do that. And if you are predisposed towards any particular behavior, being desensitized to actual reality makes it more likely, I think, for you to carry out something, violent action, etc. If that was something I think you were already unstable enough to do. And I hope that made sense. Thank you.
Talk about the stability. You say if you're unstable, Nick, and this just isn't to Nick, but for example, someone brought to my attention at work, there's a company, a gaming company that is looking at a different way of marketing pornography, right? And this is what it is whatever fantasy you have, you can invent it. You can make it happen on your screen with and even pick out the different skin tones and whatever not you want the young lady to have or whatever. So have we moved to a place where we avoid ourselves of humanity to the point where artificial intelligence and things, we can no longer tell the difference, and the gratification of these things, whether it be violence, whether it be sexual, wherever it be, the gratification of it equals that of the human touch. Is that where we are? Is that where we're headed?
In my perspective, that is where they, quote unquote, which is essentially just the, put simply, the forces of capitalism are headed, yes, to create something that is indistinguishable from real life, essentially, for the very simple purpose of, as I said, getting you hooked on a product. It is the drug is distraction, using sensation, using emotion, etc. It's like being entranced by a, let's say you were, watching a movie, and while you're watching the movie, you're 100% absorbed in the experience to the point where you forget about everything else. It's similar to that, I think, that in concept. It is in the best interest of people who wish to essentially capture your senses for the purpose of getting money and attention, etc., from you. It is in their best interest to make something that is as addictive as possible. And if you can create something that is indistinguishable from reality, and we're not near there yet, but that is the direction they're going in. If you can create something that is indistinguishable from reality, that becomes the best tool for capturing your attention. And of course, the things that capture our attention the most are things that are pleasurable for various reasons, which is why we all know the phrase sex sells, for obvious reasons. And if they can use all of those sort of sensory inputs as part of the overall effort to capture attention, then, as I said, it dulls your ability to tell the difference between reality and what is being virtually presented to you. It dulls your own spiritual instinct, your intuition, your actual interface with reality. And all of that is beneficial if you want to create people who are good, obedient sort of consumers of the illusion that you are selling. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor, did I catch you wrong?
In addition to what Nick was saying, the games are designed to, as he said, desensitize you. These are the same methods that's used, but let me back up. This type of gaming found its genesis in the methods that was used to teach someone to fly a plane, mimicking real conditions. And at the same time, them experiencing the sensation of flying, of being a pilot, flying that plane, being in control of that plane, even if it was crashing, how you go respond to it, because you can actually feel it, you actually experience it. And then it morphed into a method of desensitization, desensitizing people rather for the purpose of warfare. And the current games that we have that desensitizes people to murder, rape, etc. These games do that by virtue of, as Nick said, taking place of reality within you, and it makes it a lot easier and more acceptable to kill someone without feeling. It's almost like the older methods of teaching someone in the military to use a knife to cut a throat or to stab someone. You start with a pig because of the feel that you have in your hand when you do that. And it gets to the point where you don't feel it anymore. It just becomes a part of your response to what's in front of you. So when they talk about suing these companies, these gaming companies, it's because the gaming company has desensitized so many young minds to murder by virtue of the war games that they play, and desensitize them to how they treat females because of the females becoming pawns in a game or becoming just sources of pleasure. And that pleasure sometimes is not even involved. It does not even involve sex as much as it involves beating them or killing them because they did not respond the way you wanted them to. This is one of the most dangerous tools that's on the market in the world. And if it is not, if mankind's mindset is not changed spiritually, it only becomes worse. No one is born with a desire to murder someone. No one is born desensitized to murder or rape or brutalizing someone, crushing someone's skull. That desensitization comes over time. When we were younger, it was one of the things that was watched for someone who plays with matches or someone who kills small animals. That was a sign of them being psychologically imbalanced, and they became desensitized to death itself. So I can see that happening in terms of the lawsuit. However, the lawsuit as it pertains to the gun manufacturers, there is a federal law that discourages anyone from suing gun manufacturers. I will be very interested in seeing how far that gets, because I do believe that any lawsuit that is aimed at the gaming, gaming producers or manufacturers, as well as gun manufacturers, is going to end up in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is not going to hold them responsible because of the makeup of the Supreme Court. Now, having said all of that, there is a court of justice that supersedes any court that man has ever brought into existence. And that court of justice is the actually the universe itself and the righteousness thereof. So our responsibility is to ensure that even if these games are left on the market, they won't have any subscribers, or they will have so few subscribers until it will cease to have an adverse effect on humanity. And in addition, we have obligations as well to cease introducing our children to weapons of warfare. Keep in mind that the weapons of death did not come into existence until the desire to manipulate, control at any cost came into existence, that mindset. And right now, the most dangerous country on the face of the earth is the country that we live in, not simply because we walk the streets and there are 340 some million guns in this, or 500 million guns rather, in this country. It's simply because that we have the most dangerous mindset of any people on the face of this earth. The mindset of America is extremely dangerous. The dominant mindset of this country is shoot first, ask questions later. That mindset does not exist worldwide. And this same mindset has been exported along with the weapons of destruction. You think about people in countries of less means than we have access to gaming tools that involves warfare, but yet they don't have access to clean water. So that is no coincidence that these things are out there the way they are. They're simply a part of what we have to address. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else?
I could add something to that. One of the biggest things that has impacted the minds of young people is just phones. There are all kinds of indicators that say that attention spans have decreased rapidly. Even your eyesight is bad, is overall worse. Because if you are staring at something super close as a kid, your eyes develop to pay attention to that range. And so you need glasses more often. There's all kinds of reasons that having access to these essentially mind control devices, I'm being only somewhat facetious with that statement.
That's not
having
facetious
access,
at all, Nick. That's exactly
well,
what
true.
they are.
They are. Having access to these things at such a young age is, in my opinion, very detrimental, and I think eventually will be recognized as such. But the question is, how much difficulty is it going to introduce in the meantime? There's a whole generation of so-called iPad kids. It's very easy to, entrance a child with things like that to get them to calm down, etc. But that is part of an overall, I like to describe this as a many-layered onion of problems. That is one problem that is the result of other problems that are the result of other problems that are ultimately the result of how we have structured our society and our approach to living and understanding. And all of that has to eventually be repaired. And ultimately, it starts with the way we structure society and how we relate to reality and to each other as a result of our spiritual state, collectively and individually.
I think saying, I'm sorry, was someone that's going to say something that I interrupt you?
Hey, Ron, I was gonna
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
look
ahead.
at,
Yeah.
if you actually look at the demographics of the majority of gamers, the average age is 35 to 44. And so it's even looking beyond, kids, it's I think it's also a mental state and where people focus their time. But if you actually look at the demographics, the average is between 35 and 44.
Wow.
So would that be the answer to the reason that we have people within that range are obsessed with open carry when it comes to weapons?
Yeah, I think it's a part of just growing up in adulthood and then evolving, like maybe starting as a kid. And if you look at the time frame for when these games started, like really evolving into the real world, your tour of duty, and I think it's a concept of putting yourself in that place, and sometimes a hero mentality that just you can't control in the real world. And but yeah, I do think it's everybody thinks they're right now to carry and possess one because their reality is kind of distorted.
Thank you.
Thanks, S.
Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry, Ron. You were getting ready to say something.
No, it's on you. Go ahead.
I was just listening and thinking about games, and that is one of my hobbies. I don't play video games a whole lot. I do play them sometimes. I play a variety of other types of games. Games where you play with people in real life, like at a table or something like that. But I was just kind of reflecting and thinking about how games can affect, the different, I guess, the psychology of the players, and wanted to bring another perspective, even with a game like Call of Duty, which I know is a military mindset and is training people to think that way, and also to work together in the way that soldiers might work together to achieve something on a battlefield. I think, like Nick was saying, like there are so many other issues in our society that make this kind of sort of training and indoctrination more potent. And I'm hesitant to lay the blame like completely at the foot of games themselves. I don't think we're headed down that way like completely in this conversation, but I just wanted to point out that there's a huge variety of them out there, and there are a lot of different types of experiences you can have, some of which are very positive, and some of which grow community in ways, just like the internet can be used for good, it can also be used for evil. And I don't know. I just wanted to kind of point out that, like video games in particular it's an ocean of possibility and experiences.
Yeah.
I'll leave that there.
I agree with you, Denise, in that
Yeah.
there's a lot of positivity there, especially when it comes to being able to teach someone to become a pilot, things like that.
Yeah.
My response was based on a question about the gamers that supposedly led people to shoot up the school at Uvalde and other places. What it does do, indeed, it gives you, when it comes to weapons, everyone thinks that it's easy to become using a weapon simply because they see it on TV. The sound of the weapon itself startles you or frightens you. If you're not conditioned to that sound of the firing of that weapon, the weapon doesn't do you much good. I'll give you an example. People who have weapons in their homes feel safer, but most of them end up getting killed with a weapon in their home because not only do they not know how to use it, but to be awakened with a loud noise at night your first response is not to reach for a weapon unless you've been trained to do so. The other thing is one thing to be sensitized to the sound of it and shooting a target, but it's a whole different ball game to pull that trigger and shoot a person. The games that are on the market desensitizes you to shooting a person. Even the silhouettes that are used in target practice are much different than you playing a video game and you pulling that trigger and seeing the blood splatter from that person, or that person's head is completely blown off. That's the kind of stuff that's used to train snipers. The sensation that you get from those kind of interactions is something that you, in your mind, you think that, oh, it's nothing but a game, until you actually are in that situation. And then you will begin to see that the circumstances are totally different. It's like, earlier I spoke about using a knife and how that in early times you were desensitized to that by using animals. You can also experience within yourself the feel of a round that you fire at someone, hitting them. It's a difference in what you feel when you shoot a living being. And those games desensitize you to that. So when it actually happens, you don't have that experience of regret like you would if it happened just for the first time. That's all I'm trying to say. But again, there are games out there that are helpful. But under no circumstances do I believe that there should be a studied diet of video games, regardless of whether they're positive or negative, because as Nick pointed out, they have an adverse effect on your vision as well as your attention span. Thank you.
Yeah, and particularly the younger that you are, all of those effects compound. If it was me,
Yeah.
dictator of the United States, you can't even have a smartphone until you're like 21.
Yeah.
You get a dumb phone, maybe you can have, it'll call 911, you can text message, but no internet.
I wanna introduce something else to this conversation and see if it fits. If it doesn't fit, y'all tell me and we'll move on. I had a doctor's appointment several months ago now, because I've been back to him twice since then. And I went to this doctor because someone told me he was different, that he actually treat the patient and listens to you. And I went to him because I told him about some of my other experiences with doctors. And we talked about some of the problems I had. For one thing, I take a lot of things like I may take vitamin B12, I may take turmeric, stuff like that. I'll take not prescription stuff, but stuff I think helps me, with my digestion, or probiotics, prebiotics, that sort of thing. So I walk in with this list of things and I put it on the table, and he took the paper and folded it back up and laid it, in a chair beside me. And I thought that was interesting. He didn't even look at my paper. And I told him about the problem I was having with my digestive system. And, he wrote it all down, and he told me he wanted me to have a colonoscopy. And I told him I'd had a couple, but that's where you want to start. So the next visit, he never touched me. He never took the stethoscope off his neck. And the next visit, he said he wanted to get some blood work before I had the colonoscopy. He did, and he says, your cholesterol's a little high. And I said, how high? He said, it's not bad, but it's a little high. And I said, okay. I said, I'll work on that. Well, a couple of days later, I get a phone call from the pharmacist telling me a prescription's ready. And he had put me on a cholesterol medicine. And I didn't like that at all. So when I visited him, I had a talk with him, and I told him, remember our first conversation, I don't like the one size fit all approach to medicine. You commented to me that, it looked like I'm in good shape. I said, ask me about my diet. Ask me about my lifestyle. Why is my cholesterol a little high? And I said, I did my own research. And I said, but anyway, let's change my diet. Let me work on this. Give me 6 months. And it seemed to kind of irritate him a little bit. Why am I saying this? I think as a people, we have grown, and I don't mean Black people, I mean as America. We are not seeing each other individually anymore. We don't see each other as humans. We see each other as each one of us represent a unit of money, a unit of profitability. No matter what we're in, whether or not and I'm not talking about everybody, of course, but some of the frustrations I hear with parents and teachers, or teachers about parents, we don't talk anymore. We don't see each other anymore as what could be your issue, and let me diagnose this based on who you are, not on what I supposed to do A, B, and C in this category. So it sounds like this is not related to the video game thing, but I'm thinking the whole thing is we are not operating as human beings anymore in the same way that I won't even say used to, but we could be. So any thoughts on that? Am I off basis here, or is that something totally different?
I don't think so, Ron. It was the
Just
same
one
thing I
second,
was
please.
thinking always. Yeah.
Before you, 1 second, please. After you address this, I want to make sure that we don't leave the question without approaching to this desensitization, whatever it is. You know what I'm trying to say. Desensitization of humans towards females. I definitely want to address that. Go ahead, whoever's talking, please.
Oh, I was just saying I don't think Ron's off base at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree with you,
agree.
Josh.
Not off base at all. And that is it is part of the overall effort of to introduce what is essentially artificial reality and sort of paste it on top of what human beings naturally are and want to do. And all of that is the result of the mindset and the sort of spiritual confusion of people who want to create that. It's an easy way to sort of describe that sort of dehumanization and turning everybody into little units of profit that's the natural direction that our sense of relating to each other goes underneath this system called capitalism. But capitalism is itself only a product of the original mindset and spiritual condition. So it is very much a confused way of interfacing with reality. It is a confused way of interfacing of human interface. And that confusion seeps down into all of us because we all exist within that context. But it is all very much related, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
Oh, it's Ron, the type of doctor that you're looking for that will incorporate your will prescribe vitamins just as quickly or faster rather than a Western pharmaceutical is probably a doctor that practices functional medicine. That's
Okay,
some research I've been doing myself. So if you can find one in your area, you might have a better experience.
okay, thank you. I will do that.
Are there any comments or questions about the discussion? I mean, what Ron presented, other than, I agree that he's right on target with what he's saying in regards to profitability.
I'd just like to know what was the final answer, Ron, after you discussed that with your doctor and asking him to ask him about your diet, or to let's take another avenue before prescribing the medicine. I just wanted to know what was his take on that.
His question to me was, you're not going to get the prescription. And I said, no. I said, I came in and talked with the pharmacist, and I told her that I wasn't going to take this prescription. And not that I want, if I can't control this on my own, then it may be last alternative. He said, I'm going to have to put that in your chart. I said, okay. And he did that. I refused to take the medication. And I'm thinking, if that's where medicine has become, if that's where how we treat each other in America anymore, I thought about the African. We always seem to be the one that is the guinea pig, or the last one that anybody asks their opinions on anything. And I guess I was kind of caught him off guard a little bit. I'll tell you that I had a visit with him Monday, and I went in. I wasn't feeling well. I had body ache and woke up a little sore and tired. And I went in and I told him that. I said, I don't know what this is. I said, it might just be a bug or something. I said, but I got up and I took some vitamin C. And he said, well, I suppose you don't want a prescription for it. And I thought he was being sarcastic, and I didn't answer him. The first thing I saw was Virginia, my mom. I said, Virginia, be still. Be still. Don't answer that, because it's going to come out wrong, So I didn't even answer. I didn't even address it. So I thought when I left there, it's been a while since I had a colonoscopy. I'll go ahead and get one. But yeah, I do need to find somebody else. But yeah, he acted like he didn't like that.
My supervisor's daughter at the time, she was younger, and she went in. He took her in, and they wanted to prescribe her a steroid, and he refused it. And her doctor's response was, he said, no, we're not going to take the steroid, because she was a kid. She was younger at the time. And so the doctor's response to him was, how long you been practicing? And the doctor was a little bit offended, but he didn't care. He said he was not going to put his child on a steroid. That's why I was wondering what was his response. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Any other
Ron, I got a quick
questions?
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Was the doctor, was he younger doctor, middle age, older doctor?
Actually, he's a few years younger than me.
Because I know just working with physicians over the years are what I call my old school doctors, the
Mhm.
older guys, they're more prone to let's try the alternative methods of things before we start medications and the other things. And then these younger ones coming out, you notice that more medications being handed out like candy.
Yeah, it really surprised me, especially when he didn't really even touch my body. I didn't. It's one of those things you can go to the doctor for. It's not one of those things you look forward to, but it surprised me that he didn't. And so it's almost like he's looking at a chart or something, and if I see this system, this system, this is what we do. And we've gotten, the whole point is, to me, is we've gone to a place in our lives that we don't see each other anymore as people. We don't,
May I address that?
please.
It is the doctor's fault, and it is not the doctor's fault. If you remember, there was a time when people went to college or to tech schools, and they went there to learn. And they had a wide range of understandings when they graduated. Corporations began to control colleges and universities. And now everything is geared toward training you to work for a corporation to make money, as opposed to thinking for yourself or processing. College and universities are not places of learning anymore. They are places of training and manipulation. Med schools are not controlled by doctors anymore. Med schools are controlled by drug companies. And drug companies have checklists for their medications. And under the guise of being trained to be a doctor, you're actually trained to be a dispenser of medications. And if you look at the advertisements on TV, they actually the medication advertisements came under the Reagan administration. He was the one who pushed, because of the lobbyists from pharmaceutical companies, that you could advertise medicines on TV. Since that period of time, med schools have changed dramatically, to the point where the doctor that you're talking about is simply an agent for the pharmaceutical company, and not a physician who seeks to do to help heal your body. So we are dealing with a mindset in the area of medicine that is no different than the mindset of one who is in corporate America. There are very few careers that, for lack of a better term, that are geared toward benefiting humanity. All of them are geared toward making money, period. So when you said that, Rick, about the younger doctors, the older doctors, rather than Ron mentioned the younger doctors, that has taken place. It took some time. It took more time to get the med schools to this place than it did to get colleges and universities under the control of corporations. Now everything is under the control of corporation. So don't expect anything better.
Pastor, that goes all the way back to school now, the elementary, middle, high, the kids being taught to the test, so they don't understand the basics of what they need to know to fully understand what they're learning, because they're being taught to take these South Carolina Ready, these math tests, and all these things. So the basics of what I know how to learn math, they got this whole new math thing going on. So it's hard for me to try to explain stuff to my kids because of all this new technology going on. These YouTube videos that the teachers are giving out as teaching sources, they do their quick teaching in classroom, and then they give YouTube videos to the kids now. I just noticed that in an assignment Andrew had the other day. And they're not teaching anymore, so the kids are not learning properly anymore. And that's going through elementary, middle, high, college, and so forth.
Yes. And Ricky, that goes back to what the conversation that Barbara had with John yesterday. One of the most profound things that we've talked about came from that conversation yesterday she had with John, talking about the mockingbird. We are being taught to be mockingbirds. We mimic what we are told, as opposed to having creative thoughts that guides us into a place where we are beneficial to each other. The one who controls education controls the way you think. And the one who controls the way you think controls the way you act. So we're not being dumbed down as much as we're being taught to be submissive and docile to any commands, because there's nothing you can do about it. That's what we're being taught. Everything is controlled by a handful of people, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't have money and you don't have the political means to bring a change to it. What people do not yet understand is that we are gradually being enslaved to the degree that it is so invisible and subtle, until one day we'll wake up. If we don't keep doing what we're doing in terms of the spiritual journey we're on, we will wake up one day and we will be like cattle in the field or sheep being led to a slaughter. That's what corporate America is carrying the world to this day. Think about this. The things that are in the yellow dyes, the red dyes in our foods, you think that's just acceptable. But these are the reasons there's so much autism. These are the reasons that there's obesity. These are the reasons that it's difficult for kids to hold thoughts in their heads. The way that they are being taught is not a teaching method at all. No one is being taught anymore. Everyone is being indoctrinated. And that's a huge difference. And the indoctrination is more evident in the example that you gave about the YouTube videos that's being given out. So it's not teaching anymore. It's like sitting people in a room with headphones and a monitor in front of them. And they're constantly all day long listening to the same thing over and over again until it becomes such a part of them, until that's all they know. People don't think anymore. And we have to change that. And that is one of the reasons I'm anxious to get to the female aspect of this question. Thank you.
Well, there's the other thing.
It's not making sense. Oh, go ahead. What's it?
I want to go
Audrey?
ahead.
Oh, Charles. Okay. So, go ahead.
My question is, digital world is doing to humanity. I mean, why?
Listen anymore.
Huh?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Charles, yeah, Charles
Okay.
is talking.
They're not as willing to sit and listen anymore for you to show them certain things. They're just, I mean, I just see it. I guess they're having too much screen time or too much something, but they don't have as much attention in terms of sitting and listening and absorbing things anymore. So I'm seeing that, and it's very real.
Okay, I'm going to respond to that, Audrey, after Charles speaks.
Okay.
Charles?
My question, what is the digital world is doing to humanity? Because it seems like the digital world, humanity is moving toward that more faster than anything.
Okay. That actually coincides with what Audrey said, to be honest. The question becomes why? Why is it that it's so difficult for them to be still long enough to learn or to focus? It's not only because of the digital world, Charles, it's more because of the food that we eat. No one wants to make that connection, but that is a real connection. There is an alliance between the medical world and the world of food production. And both of them work hand in hand. And one covers the symptoms with a Band-Aid called medicine, and the other creates the problem. If you were to Google the foods that are offered in America that are not accepted in other countries, you will have a list of everything that you eat. The reason our children are the way they are in terms of processing or the lack thereof is because of the dyes that I spoke about, among other things, that's dressed up and called preservatives when they are actually poisons. You can't eat a pack of M&Ms without running the risk of minimizing your ability to focus because of the yellow dyes that's in it. And I keep saying yellow dyes, red dyes. These things seem so benign, but they are extremely dangerous. Anything that's written on a packet that you cannot pronounce, you should eat what's in it. And you hear this so much about our foods until nobody really pays it any attention because it has become such a common conversation. But we are seeing the results of it every single day. And the major and detrimental results of it, what we're seeing, is what Audrey just described. What Audrey described was not so 10 years ago. And 10 years from now, it would be to the point where there would be no learning taking place at all, only disciplinary actions. And disciplinary actions will not come in the way that we think disciplinary actions will come. Disciplinary actions will come by controlling the emotions of the children. And the more that they are controlled, the easier it is to keep them under control or keep them away from opportunities that are out there. Meaning that the poorer the child is, the more apt that child is to eat foods that's killing them. And when you think about places like, for example, Panera says that they're not going to serve clean food anymore. What does that mean? They're moving to preservatives because it's cheaper. People think that Chick-fil-A is clean food. Chick-fil-A has more chemicals in it than McDonald's. So all of these things that we are talking about go right back to the foods that we eat. Now, how do we deal with that? We deal with that the same way that we deal with everything else. This is just as much of a problem for humanity as is the lack of spirituality or the lack of understanding of spirituality. This is worse. Hear me well. This is worse than racism because it is altering the mindset, the lifespan of every human who indulges themselves in the food substances of this country. This is not worldwide. This is America. The children in America is what Audrey is describing. The digital world is everywhere, all over the world. But the responses in this country are different because it's coupled with so many adverse variables. And those adverse variables is, as I said, is food, is medicine, is racism, is Christianity, is Islam, is all of these things. It's a plethora of things that has brought us to this state of instability, that's brought us to this state of no hope, the state of hopelessness. When you have children believing that they'll be dead or in jail by the time they get 15 years old, that's a problem. When you have white kids who don't even think like that. The question becomes why? Because their access to healthcare, their access is different than what ours is. You have a doctor who look at you funny, Ron, and not accept what you're saying. The white kid has a doctor who agrees with the parent because that parent is in a better position to search for doctors than the average person is. The reason that there is poor medical care in the country is because it's designed to keep poor people, and I'm not just talking about poor Black folks, poor people, period, in a state of disarray, to keep them in a state of sickness, a state of weakness. If your body is weak, your mind is weak. If you're sick, you don't think clearly. If you're fighting to survive, you don't focus on what's actually happening to you. And then we are accused of voting against our self-interest. It's simply because you don't think clearly. You cannot think clearly if you have an improper diet. All of these variables are there. So, and I do believe they're there because we have been taught from the foundation of our lives, not just this generation, but from generations in the past, we have been taught to worship something that doesn't exist. And as a result of that, our focus have been on submission to something that doesn't exist, to the extent that we have gotten to a place where that thing is such a part of us until we don't have to even think about it anymore. People who have not put a foot in a church think the same way that people in church thinks, that this entity must be submitted to, an entity that does not exist. All of these things are a tapestry of what's wrong with humanity. And the only thing that can unravel that tapestry and bring to a place of solace and a place of humbleness, a place of harmony, the only thing that can do that is the desires of the Creator. And the desire of the Creator is that all be delivered from this place of bondage, be delivered from all of these shackles. That's the desire of the Creator. And if that is the desire of the Creator, and we are the Creator, then that must also be our desire. And that desire can never be fulfilled until we recognize the question that Ron raised yesterday: who is God to you? This whole thing, that the second half of this question that was raised about the desensitization to how females are treated, all of that plays into everything that we've talked about this morning, whether it be medicine, whether it be money, everything that we've talked about, all of it plays into that. And the reason I say that it plays into that is because if you don't have any regard for the womb that you came out of, then you don't have any regard or any understanding for who God is or who the Creator is. And if you don't have that understanding, that means that you cannot embrace it. So I think that when we get an in-depth understanding and embrace the reality of who Creator is, then we will be at a place where we can transform not only the mind of humanity, but we can transform everything that's happening in this earth. For example, for the last few days, there have been storms rolling through. And I was, day before yesterday, I was getting ready to cut some grass, and this, the clouds start rolling in as they did for a storm. I said, no, this is not going to happen. I need to get this done. The rain has come yesterday, and I'm done with that. So I started doing what I'm doing, and all of a sudden, there are no storms. The moment that I finished, when my foot hit the step, headed into the house rather, it started raining immediately. Now, yesterday, sitting on the porch, Phoebe and I were sitting there, and the same thing happened yesterday. The storm rolled in yesterday afternoon after we got off the phone. I made the same statements. The same thing happened. Now, all of us on this phone, at least the majority of us anyway, are very familiar with our ability to influence the weather for the benefit of humanity. We are aware of that. So if we are aware of that, then I raise this question. If we could influence the weather for the benefit of humanity, what makes us think that we cannot alter the course of climate change without regard to whatever is happening? It doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter what the causes are. Why is it that we don't feel that we can do that? If we can do that weather one day, we can do climate change for days, months, and years. And why is it? It's because I don't believe that we have a thorough understanding of who we are or who God is. Does that make sense? And I know I've said a lot, but am I making sense, guys? Come on.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Just don't leave me hanging.
I have a comment. I appreciate what you said as far as us changing the way things are by what we do on the phone and through the broadcast. And as far as us changing things, how sometimes I feel like certain things I see is out of my control. Like when I go to Food Lion, or any grocery store for that matter, all the fast foods are there. That the food that's unhealthy is right in your face when you first walk in there. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And my question to you is, and you probably already said it, how to change what I see in that matter, because it's not right, it's wrong. And I know we have to do our part. And I know we have to do our part.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I know we have to do our part as far as selecting the items or whatever, but it hurts because I know this is a target to, like you say, to dumbing us down as far as thinking and vibrating. I'm done.
It's called discipline, one thing. You discipline yourself to move beyond that. There's also a message that tells us that everything that has been touched by maleness is dysfunctional, because we don't know who God is. And when we talk about who God is, we'll see. I'll be able to relate that to your question, Evan. Hello?
Oh, I'm listening.
Okay. May I do that? May I approach that now?
Please.
Ron raised a question yesterday about who is God to you. And as I pondered that, after we had gotten off the phones and I was just sitting on the porch listening at the birds, my mind kept going back to Barbara's conversation with John and the mockingbird. The mockingbird mocked other birds to the extent that it had lost a sense of who it is. So it did not have purity of sound anymore, or thought. And we have been mockingbirds for thousands of years. We have been brought to a place where academia has made us mockingbirds. We mimic, we repeat what we hear without giving thought to what it means. And as a result of that, we are at a breaking point. Not only is the earth at a breaking point, but so is humanity at a breaking point. The source of healing is right before our eyes. And we have been taught to be the mockingbird for so long until we fight the reality of what we see. For an example, every time that we talk about feminine energy, we get pushback from masculine energy. What about the man? Quite frankly, the man is the problem. There is no virtue in the man at all. Because we have defined what the man is, and the man is not masculine energy. Our definition of what the man is arrogance, greed, brutality, forcefulness, disrespectful, and evil. Masculine energy is not that at all. Masculine energy is one with God. Masculine energy is one with God. What is God? Where did all humans come from? Our Creator brought every human into existence. Would you agree with that? And that's not rhetorical. I'm going someplace.
Yes.
Okay. So if every human on this earth comes from God, then that means that there is an entity in this earth who has the origin of every human in it. The only human on this earth, the only organism on this earth that has in its mitochondrial DNA, the DNA, or the genes rather, for every race of people on the face of the earth. It doesn't matter whether you're Chinese or Eskimo. It doesn't matter whether you are an Eskimo or Aboriginal. It doesn't matter whether you're Aboriginal or African. It doesn't matter. The gene for every single human is in only one organism on the face of this earth. And that organism is a Black woman, an African woman. They call it the Eve gene because we don't pay that much attention to it. But when you break down what that means, the African woman is the only organism on this earth that has the gene for every single group of people on this earth. And if that is not God, what is it? Our focus has been on something that cannot reproduce. Our God that we have been focused on cannot give birth to anything at all. It does not have humanity, it does not have the good for humanity at heart at all. It has a desire for itself. Because our definition of maleness is selfishness, no matter how we try to dress it up. We have no gene in us for anything in this earth except us. But that African woman has a gene for everyone. And if that is not a physical manifestation of who our Creator is, you tell me what is. And I'm going somewhere with this. Are there any questions or comments about that?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Reverend Richard, I just want to go on record and say that I don't really agree with the man is the problem. Not in its entirety. I don't think the man is the problem. Yet I defend.
You didn't, George, you didn't hear me. You didn't hear me. You did not hear me. I said, because of our definition of what a man is. That's what I said. I did not say just the man. Our definition of a man is totally different than masculine energy. Did I not make that statement? Come on, y'all. Did I say it?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Oh, okay, don't. Oh, okie doke then. Well, guess what? I stand corrected. Y'all
Thank you,
forgive me,
sir.
don't you?
Yeah, of course. Forgiveness is always in order. Now, what I am saying is this. Until we begin to understand that submission doesn't mean domination. That submission means participation. Until we understand that masculinity is a participant in bringing into existence everything that is. And masculinity has its origin in the same womb as everything else, and that is in the womb of an African woman. And disregarding, disrespecting, and seeking to dominate in a negative way, that womb renders us impotent to be able to bring anything that resembles harmony and change into the earth. We are continuing to be mockingbirds because we internally really don't want to accept the reality of who God is. God has always been recognized as being feminine energy. It has never been recognized as being masculinity until Europeans did it for the express purpose of controlling the world. And ever since then, we have been idolatrous. And as long as we are idolaters, nothing will change. Evelyn can walk in that grocery store and all of those food substances will still be there, and they will still have the negative effects on the body as they have. Yet, if we embrace the reality of who God is, who divinity is, then we will be able to drink the poison water and it will not harm us at all. What do I mean by that? That the divinity that protects us, that guides us, the divinity that gave us life is obligated to protect us in this course of life. We are the ones who stand in its way by virtue of seeking guidance and deliverance from something that doesn't exist. And this is not just males. This is also females who have submitted to a male image of God that does not exist. African women, know who you are. Act like who you are. Do not allow anyone to denigrate you. Do not allow anyone to make you feel less than, because you are more than. If it were not for the genetic make of your being, there would not be humans in this earth. I am talking about African women, period. Without the existence of African women, there would be no existence of humanity, period. That is something we must embrace. Women, African women, you are not a toy. It is European men know your power. That's why they're afraid of you. You are not a toy. You're not a pleasure center. You are divine. By creation, you are divine. And you have been treated the way you have because once you embrace your divinity, there is no power on this earth. There is no power in this universe that can stop you from moving in a positive way to bring deliverance to humanity. Deliverance to humanity will not come from the barrel of a gun or the tip of a spear. Deliverance for humanity will come from the heart, the soul of the womb that brought humanity into existence. When we are able to not just wrap our minds around it, but hold it deeply into our hearts, that's when it will begin to happen. It only happens when you, African woman, know who you are and stop feeling uncomfortable about it. And there are those who are saying, what about white women? What about Chinese women? I am not talking about them because they do not possess within them the genes that this African woman possesses. If it were not for the African woman, there would not be a white woman or a Chinese woman at all. Does this sound like a pep talk? No, this is reality speaking. This is life speaking. Who is God? What does God look like? God does not look like your physical essence in the mirror. God looks like how you are wired. You are wired to bring life to every human in this earth. That's how you are wired. And when you embrace that for real, and let go of that Jesus hanging on the wall at that church, and let go of those pronouns of he that's in the scriptures about a God. Let go of all of that and recognize that this is not about race, this is about reality. And there are people who will tell you that what I am saying is racist because I'm talking about the African woman. But I really don't give a damn what they think about me for what I am saying, because it's time for the truth to be told. It's time for the African woman to be recognized for who she is. And you say, but I thought you were talking about feminine energy. Understand something. The manifestation of feminine energy is God itself. And if you have every gene in you for every human on earth, regardless of its race or regardless of its ethnicity, if you have that, then you are a manifestation of God in this earth. And that is the reason why indigenous people have always revered you. That is the reason there is a mother of a church in every Black church, because something in us has told us that before you were brought to this country, in your village, there was a mother of the village, and the mother of the village was recognized for who she is, and that is the source of all life. Am I making sense to you? Is this clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
clear.
Yes.
Are there
Yes.
any questions about this? Am I elevating the African woman? Yes, I am. Am I denigrating the African man? No, I'm not. Am I denigrating a white man? No, I'm not. Am I denigrating a white woman? No, I'm not. When you tell the truth, it denigrates no one. It elevates everyone. When you lie, it denigrates those who you're lying about. But it does not denigrate anyone to tell the truth. And if you are uncomfortable with the truth, don't blame the truth. Blame the lie that made you comfortable.
Mm.
And the lie that made you comfortable is that God is a white man. The lie that made you comfortable is that Jesus, the Son of God, is a white man. That's what made you comfortable. The thing that makes you uncomfortable is the truth that God is feminine. The truth that that African woman is the manifestation of God in this earth.
Okay,
I rest my case.
Pastor,
Yes,
tie
sir.
that together then with unity, who we are, how do we see we've erased Jesus, we've erased that God that we thought we knew. Bring us back together, the unity and how and what we see in the scripture, because that's what we started off with, how we view everything now in the scripture. Kind of tie all this together for me, please.
That's very easy to tie together. The only thing that divides us is religion. Religion, every religion on earth is a source of separation. Our unity is found in the womb of the African woman, because that's where all of us came from. That's where our unity is. Our starting point is our source of unity. And our starting point is in the mitochondria of that woman, that African woman. And if you can't accept that, you do not want unity.
That's beginning, isn't it?
It absolutely is beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
And please, from this day forward, think twice and speak once when you begin to talk about African women. because I will hurt your feelings without regret. And if I hurt your feelings without regret and you choose not to talk to me anymore, that's your loss, not mine. Humanity and its survival is more important than friendship to me. Questions, comments?
Well, my comment is unity is balance. And balance is going back to the beginning and understanding the truth of what reality is. And when you understand that truth, then your heart and your mind becomes one, and that brings unity.
Yes, absolutely. So when we embrace reality, what we just talked about, we can, that's unity, that's harmony within itself. To embrace what's real, the truth. We have been skirting this. We have been walking around it. Well, let me be more honest about this. I have been walking around this. I have been circling this. I have been hesitant. But this is truth. Lies weaken. Truth strengthens. And you do not have to move from your couch in order to bring harmony when you are dealing with truth. Truth itself brings harmony. Truth does not need to be defended. I don't need to defend an African woman. She is truth. Yes, we came through slavery because God brought us through. We've always said that, have we not?
Yes.
God delivered us from the hardships in our lives. And we've always said that our women brought us through. They carried us on their backs. I do not believe that that's what our ancestors meant literally. I believe that our ancestors knew what they were talking about from the depths of their souls, saying that the manifestation of God in this earth is what delivered us from the shackles of Europe. Questions or comments? Any questions, any comments?
I think that sums it up.
I think, though, that there's a profoundness in that we need to process a little bit. But I feel it as truth. And I just need to let it be still within me. But I do feel it as true.
Thank you. And I pray that all of you are experiencing what Audrey is. And I'm going to take a step further. No, we don't meet tomorrow. But if there are no questions right there at this moment about what's been presented just now, if there are no questions or comments about it, we're done for today. Don't want to overlay this with anything. I want to leave it right where it is.
I ain't going to sleep.
I beg your pardon?
Is it went down?
We're done.
I guess one of the things, and I'm not, I hope George doesn't mind me using it as an example, but his question, that we see when you make the statement like that about the Black female, and that's why we want to talk about unity, that we don't see that she is the object of worship. This is spiritual, and every one of us came from that womb, so we're all one and the same and a part of that. That that's very important for us to see that this is not a separation kind of thing that she is shepherd for me or I am, this is if anything, it ties us together even more if you understand it. And yeah, I think it's something to ponder as well.
Something to ponder. I'm going to say something. It doesn't matter whether you understand it. What matters is whether or not it resonates. Understanding means that in our vernacular, understanding means that you can regurgitate it. Spiritual understanding is experience. Experience is resonation. When it resonates with you, what resonance is experience. When it resonates with you, that's understanding spiritually. That's what I'm saying. Truth resonates. Academia seeks to be able to regurgitate. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day. And it's my desire that this will linger with you throughout this day and the days to come. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
next time.
Okay.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. This was
You're
really
quite welcome.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ashe, Ashe.
I say,